Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another Baddies Africa review, so let's just get right into it. So this episode picks up where the last one left off, where they were all together at the table having brunch, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and food starts flying everywhere. Now the reason why they had this really big food fight is because Rollie ended up bringing up at the brunch table that Dolly snatched the microphone out of K-Rican's hand at the club the night before, and they were talking about this, and Dolly and Lex ended up coming outside in the middle of them having this conversation. So when Scotty ends up coming to join all the girls for brunch, Fauna starts telling Scotty what they're talking about how Dolly snatched the microphone out of K-Rican's hand at the club, and Dolly gets annoyed at the fact that Fauna keeps saying her name while she's talking to Scotty. So Dolly tells Fauna to say her name one more time. Fauna says her name one more time. Dolly gets up and K-Rican throws a plate of food, and that's when all the food starts flying, okay? Food was everywhere, sausages, bacon all over the damn floor, eggs everywhere, and now I'm starting to see why Zeus allegedly doesn't feed these girls, because like I said in last week's review for this episode, I just feel like, you know, if they're gonna throw all the food everywhere, there's no point in feeding them in the first place. I do feel like Rollie was kind of stirring up trouble at this brunch though, because she's the one that kept bringing up the situation between Dolly and K-Rican. Like, she's the one that mentioned it multiple times, and even after she already knew that Dolly snatched the microphone out of K-Rican's hand as soon as Dolly sat down to eat for brunch, Rollie ended up asking her if she actually did that, even though she already knew. Now, Natalie ends up walking in, seeing the food all over the floor and all over the table, and she told them that she was coming to have brunch with them, but because the food is all over the floor, now she can't eat with them. But she did let them know that they'll be going to an African safari so that they can see some animals, which I was excited to watch them do, because I do enjoy, you know, watching them do activities. Even though the fighting is entertaining, seeing them do activities where they don't fight is entertaining as well. Now, before they end up leaving to go to the safari, Natalie lets them know that she's introducing a new baddie to the group. She introduces Choco Brown. Choco Brown is from Nigeria, and she comes out, she's pretty, she's nice, she's cool. I really do like her accent too. Like, I loved listening to her talk in this episode, but when she calls herself the real African queen, you can tell that that kind of bothered Elsie a little bit. Elsie didn't press Choco about it, which I liked, but she did mention it in her confessional. I don't think that was a big deal though, that Choco referred to herself as the real African queen. I don't feel like Elsie should have felt some type of way about it, and I hope the two of them don't end up fighting about this later on this season. Now, as everybody is walking into the Baddies Africa house to go get dressed so they can go to the African safari, K-Rican takes her robe off and she's trying to walk towards Dolly like she's gonna fight, and Dolly hears, you know, what K-Rican is saying, so she turns around and Rollie gets between them, trying to make sure that they don't end up fighting, and K-Rican is walking away as Dolly is walking towards her. So I'm not gonna necessarily say that K-Rican was acting scary in this situation. However, if she really wanted to fight Dolly, instead of walking away, she would have ran towards Dolly as Dolly was walking towards her. So I kind of get annoyed at K-Rican, because it seems like she runs her mouth more than she uses her hands. It seems like she can't fight, but she can pop her shit, and I know people like that she can pop her shit in her confessionals, but if you can't back it up with your hands, then it doesn't really matter, right? Now, they all end up getting on two separate sprinters, and obviously they put the girls that are cool with each other on the sprinters together because they didn't want them to fight before going to the safari. Now, K-Rican decides that she's going to go back and tell Ivory the things that Dolly was saying about her on that sprinter in the very first episode, because if you remember, in the first episode, the big three was on the sprinter with, you know, Cold Killer, K-Rican, and Fauna, and Dolly did mention Ivory and how she had to whoop her, okay? So K-Rican is going back and telling Ivory this on the way to the safari. She's telling Ivory that Dolly was talking shit about having to style a wig for Ivory and everything like that. Now, Ivory believes what K-Rican is saying, and I believe what K-Rican is saying too, because how would K-Rican know this information? K-Rican wasn't there when Dolly did Ivory's hair. She wouldn't know any of this information unless she got it directly from Dolly. So Ivory is believing everything that K-Rican is saying, and I know that the two of them are going to end up fighting or having words about this situation later on, because Ivory is definitely not going to let this situation go. Now, at some point, because this was a long ride, it was like a 2-hour ride to get to the safari, so Russian Kream is in the back talking to Choco Brown. She's talking really softly. She wasn't whispering, but she wasn't talking loud either. She was talking just loud enough for Choco to hear what she was saying, and apparently Russian was telling Choco Brown that when production tells her to be ready and get downstairs, she needs to be ready and get downstairs, because production likes that, and they'll probably give you a good edit, basically, if you're easy to work with. And this is what she was telling Choco Brown, and basically Rollie overhears this, and she starts getting mad, asking Russian Kream what she's whispering about and why she's telling false things to Choco Brown, and that it's not true what Russian is telling her. And then she tells Russian Kream Kream to stop whispering around her because she doesn't like when people whisper when she's around. I thought that was weird that Rollie decided to insert herself in Choco Brown and Russian Kream's business because it literally had nothing to do with her. I mean, I don't think that Russian Kream said anything wrong. Really, she was just telling Choco to be ready when production tells her to be ready because they like that. I don't really feel like she said anything wrong or gave her any false information. I just feel like Rollie doesn't like Russian Kream, and that's why she keeps picking at her, because she picked on her a few episodes ago too when Russian Kream really wasn't doing anything to her. She was just trying to explain what really happened because Rollie didn't know what really happened and she was speaking on it. So I just feel like Rollie doesn't like anybody who doesn't bow down to her. If you don't bow down to her and you're not extra nice to her and you don't take in everything that she says and you go against something she says, she's not going to like you. She doesn't like Russian Kream because when Rollie was trying to tell the story about what happened between Elsie and some of the other girls, Russian Kream was trying to get involved in the conversation and tell what really happened, and Rollie did not like that. Rollie is wrong in this situation. I'm sorry. I saw a lot of people cheering on Rollie, but I feel like she's wrong. I'm on Russian Kream's side. And then Russian Kream just asked Rollie straight out, I feel like you don't like me. And Rollie said that she didn't like Russian Kream because she feels like Russian Kream is a dick rider. I don't know where she got that from because I haven't seen that. Maybe she saw something off camera that we didn't get to see. But then Rollie starts telling Choco Brown not to listen to Russian Kream and that production's not going to do anything to her. And I think that that was wrong for Rollie to say that to Choco Brown because we know after watching this show for how many seasons now, we see that production does have their favorites and they will edit you in a way that you won't like if they don't like you, because we saw that happen with Emma last season. So I just feel like Rollie was the one giving false information. Now they finally end up arriving at the safari and they get on the little vehicles that you ride through the safari. And let me tell you something, Lex looked really, really pretty in this scene, okay? When they were on the safari ride, she looked really pretty to me. She had no makeup on her face, but she just had her hair done. And to me, she looks so pretty when she doesn't have any makeup on. Like, she looked really good in this episode, and I just felt like I needed to highlight that. Natalie, on the other hand, was definitely on edge when they were doing the safari ride, and I thought it was pretty funny. Like, when she saw that elephant walking towards the vehicle that they were on, she got scared and she started walking towards the back. And then when they got over to where the lions were, she was definitely scared because she knew that, you know, the lion could get over there pretty quickly. Like, the lion's gonna be a little bit faster than that vehicle that they were riding on. So I kind of felt Natalie on that, but I did think that it was pretty watching the safari and seeing it. And I liked how Lex got really emotional while they were riding through the safari, because I like that she's appreciative of the experience and that she's taking in all these moments that she didn't have before. Like, I just like that she's enjoying the ride. Now, when they finish doing the safari ride, they end up standing by the sprinters, and that's when Rollie ends up telling Natalie that she's not going to ride on the sprinter that she was riding on because she doesn't like Russian Kream. Which I thought was really childish, because at the end of the day, Rollie is the one that started with Russian Kream in the first place. Russian Kream wasn't doing anything to her, and then Rollie decided to insert herself in something that didn't have anything to do with her. So Rollie starts talking about Russian Kream, and Russian ends up chiming in to defend herself, and Rollie gets mad because she got cut off by Russian Kream, and that's when Russian starts yelling, saying Rollie never lets her talk. Rollie never really lets anybody talk. She cuts people off all the time. When they're arguing with her, she immediately cuts them off because she doesn't want them to be able to get their point across. And I'm not trying to sound biased, like I don't like Rollie. There's times where I like Rollie and there's times that I don't like Rollie. But in this situation, I feel like she was wrong. And I have to say, I like that Russian Kream was defending herself. Like, she was not backing down from Rollie. She told Rollie that she was not afraid of her, so Rollie told her to run up, and she ran up. And I will say, the first round that they did, neither one of them really did anything. I feel like they were keeping up with each other. I definitely will give the win to Rollie, but I don't feel like Russian Kream was just getting whooped by Rollie the way that people were saying that she was. I feel like people wasn't watching the fights in slow motion, and that's why they think that Rollie really did something. The second round, Russian Kream tried to kick Rollie, and Rollie ended up grabbing her leg, and that's when Russian fell on her back on the floor. But after that, Rollie really didn't do anything to her but grab her by her hair. I will give the win to Rollie. Russian shouldn't have kicked, but at the end of the day, I do respect the fact that she stood up for herself and she did fight Rollie. The third round that they ended up fighting, I will say that they kept up with each other. I don't think either one of them won that third round. I watched the fights in slow motion and I rewind them. I don't know how other people watch them, but I slowed it down, and I will say that I will give the win to Rollie, but I don't feel like she whooped Russian Kream. But Russian Kream did admit that she lost to Rollie on the sprinter. She said that she actually liked Rollie and she looked up to her, but Rollie kept picking at her, which I agree agree. I feel like Rollie was picking at her. Rollie didn't like her, maybe because Russian Kream wasn't kissing her ass. I don't know the reason, but you can tell that Russian Kream was a little bit disappointed because she didn't even really want to go out to the club, and she wasn't excited anymore for the safari ride after her and Rollie got into it on the Sprinter. So you can definitely tell that she was disappointed that Rollie was somebody that she got into it with. But on the other Sprinter, Scotty starts telling Diamond the Baddie that she's going to have to share a room with Choco Brown because she's the only one that has an extra bed in her room. All the other beds are taken, and Diamond said that she was not sharing a room with Choco Brown. She likes her room and she likes to have it to herself. She started asking Rollie if there's another bed in her room. Rollie said no. Scotty said that there wasn't another bed in her room and that Diamond's was the only one that was left. So Diamond getting online yesterday and blaming Natalie for this situation didn't really make any sense to me, because how is it Natalie's fault when Scotty and Rollie were the ones that were telling you that you were going to have to share a room with Choco Brown because there wasn't any other beds available? I mean, I just feel like it's easy for people to blame Natalie for everything, but if there wasn't any other beds in the rooms, then I mean, where else was the girl supposed to sleep at? Like, do you guys really believe that Natalie is the one that gets these houses and puts the beds and stuff in the houses? No, she's not the one that does that. Lemmy's responsible for that. Lemmy in production, not Natalie. So I just don't understand why she's the one that's being blamed for it. I just feel like Diamond does too much sometimes, and I know the fans like her, but in this episode, she was 1,000% wrong. Now, when they pull up to the house, Choco starts trying to find out which room she's supposed to be sleeping in, and apparently all the girls know that she's going to have to sleep in a room with Diamond because that's the only bed in the house available. And so Dolly said that she was being messy when she agreed to go show Choco Brown to Diamond's room, and so she was being messy when she did that. However, she didn't go in there and say anything to Diamond the Baddie. She didn't touch anything. She didn't do anything to Diamond. So when they come into the room, Diamond is on edge and she gets pissed off and mad, saying that she's not sharing a room. So when Dolly walks by, Diamond the Baddie just sneaks her right in the side of the face, and Diamond was swinging, okay? But Dolly was getting her. I'm sorry. As soon as Dolly got Diamond on that bed, she was rocking Diamond, okay? Diamond was face down in the bed and she was just getting hit. And at one point, I think Dolly tried to grab Diamond's eye, which I don't agree with. But then Dolly was kicking her all up in her head and shit. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Like, I will say I don't agree with the digging of the eyes or the kicking people in their heads or anything like that. But Diamond is the one that made things become physical when she hit Dolly for no reason. Like, yeah, Dolly admitted that she was being messy when she showed Choco Brown which room she was going to be sleeping in, but Dolly didn't go in there and touch anything. She didn't say anything to Diamond. She didn't swing on her or nothing like that. Diamond was the one that snuck Dolly, so Dolly ended up whooping her ass. I'm sorry. Diamond shouldn't have swung on her. And then Diamond is walking by with Ivory, okay? And all of a sudden, she sees Choco Brown walking by, and she just hits her in the side of the face out of nowhere, and Choco Brown didn't even know it was coming because she got snuck by Diamond. Diamond was 1,000% wrong for that, and I feel like even if you're a fan of Diamond the Baddie, you have to be able to say when the girl's wrong, because if that was Summer or any of the girls that you guys don't like and they did that to Choco Brown, you guys would have been saying that they were dead ass wrong for that. So she was wrong for hitting Choco like that. So Choco told Diamond that if she wanted to fight her, all she had to do was ask. So Choco Brown and Diamond start fighting with each other, and I will say that Diamond did swing a few times, so I will give her that, but Choco Brown definitely won that fight between her and Diamond the Baddie. She's pretty and she can fight, and I like her accent. I think she's cute and I like her so far, and I feel like Diamond was wrong for that anyway, because when Choco Brown came into the room with Dolly, she didn't say anything. She wasn't a part of any drama at all. She was just standing there quiet, so I don't even know why Diamond even hit her. So Choco Brown and Diamond start fighting again, and this time Choco was really getting Diamond. Like, Diamond wasn't even really able to keep up at this point, and then Ivory grabs Choco Brown's arm and starts telling security to break it up. Like, Ivory grabs Choco Brown's arm in the middle of her fighting Diamond the Baddie, which I didn't think was right, and I want to see the fans who were calling out Big Lex for breaking up the fight between Elsie and K Rican and saying that Lex was so wrong because she grabbed K Rican say the same thing about Ivory, because her grabbing Choco Brown's arm in the middle of her fighting Diamond to me was wrong, and I don't see anybody calling that out at all. Everybody said that Lex wasn't security, so she shouldn't have been broken up the fight between K Rican and Elsie K. Well, Ivory's not security either, so she shouldn't have been breaking up the fight between Choco Brown and Diamond the Baddie. Choco Brown and Diamond do end up fighting again, but it only lasts a few seconds because Ivory starts yelling for security to break it up because obviously Choco is winning the fight against Diamond. So then Diamond starts saying that she's injured and she felt like that whole situation was a setup, and it's like, girl, that wasn't a setup. They told you on the bus that you was gonna have to share a room with Choco Brown, and you sat up there and said that you didn't want to. That's why I was confused as to why Diamond was saying that had Choco Brown would have came into the room by herself without Dolly, things would wouldn't have escalated the way that it did. She's lying about that because on the bus where Dolly was nowhere around, Scotty and Rollie were telling her that she was going to have to share a room with Choco Brown, and she was saying that she absolutely was not sharing her room. So even if Choco came into the room by herself, it still would have escalated because that's what Diamond does. She escalates things bigger than what it needs to be. And I know I'm going to get flack for that because a lot of people like Diamond the Body and they don't like it when you speak against her. But I'm sorry, I don't care if everybody else likes her. When she's wrong, she's wrong. And she's wrong a lot of the times. It's just that people give her passes because they like her. Now, they all end up going to the club and everybody's performing their songs, and they're so messy. Production is messy as hell, okay? Because they have Diamond performing the song that she has out with Tinkerbella, okay? Even though Tinkerbella's not there, and it's actually Tinkerbella's song, not Diamond the Body. I think Diamond the Body was just featured on it. But they had Diamond performing that song because they wanted Cold Killer to feel some type of way about it, because we know in the first episode, she pressed Diamond about doing a remix to the song that she remixed, and she felt some type of way about them not giving her any credit for it. It's not either one of them's song, okay? They remixed another song, but Cold Killer did have the song first before Tinkerbella and Diamond, so she feels some type of way about it. And Rollie was being messy as hell, getting on the microphone saying that Cold Killer and Diamond the Body have the same song, like she knew exactly what she was doing when she was doing that. So then they literally cut straight from the club episode to the girls being at the house and Tavii screaming and yelling at Elsie, okay? She's saying that Elsie is upset because Tavii was shaking hands with Cold Killer at the club. Tavii is going on and on about how Cold Killer came up to her and shook her hand and gave her props for having her friends back. And she keeps on saying this, okay? So Elsie apparently feels some type of way about it. She feels like Tavii was being fake, and when she had her back in the first episode, she felt like it was not genuine. So they're arguing back and forth with each other. I'm not really taking this argument between the two of them seriously because they barely know each other to be fighting about loyalty at this point. So Elsie starts yelling, ha, 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 and all of a sudden Tavii just swings on Elsie and hits her right in her face. And Elsie is upset about this, okay? So she starts crashing out saying that Tavii was fake because if she was really her friend, she would have never swung on her. I personally don't think it was necessary for Tavii to hit Elsie because at the end of the day, Elsie wasn't going to hit her and Elsie can't really fight, so I thought it was pointless for her to do that. However, Elsie yelling ha 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 was kind of annoying, so I can understand why Tavii would get frustrated and kind of hit her to shut her up. But Elsie starts crashing the hell out. Scotty comes in there, tries to calm her down. Elsie kind of snaps at Scotty a little bit, so Scotty leaves. I feel like something's wrong with Elsie. Like, I don't dislike her, but I just feel like her crashing out every single time she gets into a fight with somebody is making me look at her sideways because she knew what she signed up for when she signed up for this show. She knew she was going to end up getting into some type of fights. Her crash outs every single time she gets into a fight is starting to get a little bit too much. So then Tavii goes downstairs and it does seem like she's trying to befriend Cold Killer and some of the other girls because she goes down there and she starts telling Cold Killer how, you know, Elsie is upset because Cold Killer came up to her in the club and shook her hand. And Tavii is making it seem like Cold Killer went up to her and was shaking her hand for having Elsie's back. But Tavii gets mad when Cold Killer is saying that that's not how it happened and that's not the reason why they shook hands. She's basically making it seem like Tavii is making the whole thing up. So Tavii's getting pissed off and annoyed and she takes some stuff off the table and she throws it at Cold Killer. So Cold Killer throws something back and shit just gets crazy. I just feel like, you know, this whole situation didn't really make any sense to me. I mean, I don't want to say that Tavii's lying about Cold Killer shaking her hand and coming up to her, but I feel like why would Cold Killer go up to Tavii and shake her hand for fighting her and all of her friends? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I really don't know who's telling the truth in the situation. But those are my thoughts on this week's episode of Baddies Africa. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video.